गुरवे सर्वलोकानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्भूतं यथा निद्रया यत्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये यस्यैव स्फुरणं सदात्मकम् असत्कल्पार्थकं भासते साक्षात् तत्त्वमसीति वेदवचसा यो बोधयत्याश्रितान् यत्साक्षात्करणाद् भवेन्न पुनरावृत्तिर्भवाम्भोनिधौ तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नानाचित्रघटोत्तरस्थितमहादीपप्रभाभास्वरं ज्ञानं यस्य तु चक्षुराधिकरणद्वारा बहिस्पन्दते जानामीति तमेव भान्तम् अनुभात्येतत्समस्तं जगत् तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये देहं प्राणमपीन्द्रियानपि चलां बुद्धिं च शून्यं विदुः स्त्रीबालान्तजडोपमस्मान्ति भ्रान्ताभृशं वादिनः मायाशक्तिविलासकल्पितमहा व्यामोहसंहारिणे तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये राहुग्रस्तदिवाकरेन्दुसदृशो मायासमाच्छादनात् सन्मात्रः करणोपसंहरणतो यो भूत् प्रागस्वाप्समिति प्रबोधसमये यैपत्यभिज्ञायते तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बाल्यादिष्वपि जाग्रदादिषु तथा सर्वास्वस्थास्वपि व्यावृत्तास्वनुवर्तमानमाम् इत्यन्तःस्फुरन्तं सदा स्वात्मानं प्रकटीकरोति भजतां यो मुद्रया भद्रया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये विश्वं पश्यति कार्यकारणतया स्वस्वामी सम्बन्धतः शिष्याचार्यतया तथैव पितृपुत्रात्यात्मना भेदतः स्वप्ने जागृति वा य एष पुरुषो माया परिभ्रामितः तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Bhurambhamsya nalo nilombar maharnartho himangshuh puman ityabhati characharatmakamidam yasyaiva murtyashtakam nanyat kinchana vidyate vimshatam yasmat parasmat vibho tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. Sarvatmatvamiti spruti kritamidam yasmadamushminstave tenasya shravanat tadarthamananat dhyanat cha sankirtanat sarvatmatvabhya vibhuti sahitam syadishwaratvam svataha siddhet punarashtadha parinatam chaishwaryamavyahatam. So we're doing the third verse. Yasyaiva sphuranam sadatmakam asatkalparthakam bhasate sakshat tattvamasiti veda vachasa yaha bodhayati ashritan yat sakshat karanat bhavet na punaravrittihi bhavambho nidhau tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. So the English translation will be, I do my namaskara to that Shiva whose unchanging nature and unchanging source of knowledge. So that's the main meaning of yasya eva sphuranam sadatmakam. So whose sphuranam? So the sphuranam means one whose effulgence. Because our entire life is in the form of knowledge. We just look at it, the entire life that we have consists of, the ingredient of the whole life is awareness. Awareness and knowledge and consciousness and effulgence are all the same thing. There's no difference. So the entire life is in the form of an unchanging awareness. Unchanging means one which never comes and goes. So that's the meaning of sadatmakam. So one whose puranam, whose knowledge, one whose consciousness, and this is not something that you have to, this is not bookish knowledge. It is pointed out to you that you should be able to see for yourself that really your life consists of, the most fundamental part of your life is I know, knowledge, awareness. But that knowledge and awareness is so kept in the background that I never investigate it. I never really investigate it. Here Swami Paramarthananda in his talk on Ashtavakra Gita, which we will do sometime, it's a very beautiful text that he has taken. He was saying that really, if you, there are two types of people that you find. One is who are endowed with, everybody is endowed with a sense of duality. So duality means that sometimes things go well and sometimes they don't go well. This is what is called dvandva. So pairs of opposites. So the entire life consists of these two pairs of opposites. completely. One time there is night, another time there is day. There is birth, there is death. There is happiness, there is sorrow. There is triumph, there is defeat. Uh, so this is the Dvandva. So the Anatma is the very nature of the Anatma is that it is made out of Dvandvas. So, and we are aware of that. We are aware of the Dvandvas. So there are two types of people that you can encounter. One of them is for whom the Dvandvas are going well. They are going well. And generally going well. So what happens in those cases is that when they see a bad side of life, they tend to overcome it and say, this will be over soon, it's okay. I'm just focusing on the good side of life. So it's like you are having your focus on the partiality of Dvandva. So only one good thing, that's what you're focused on. Okay? So if you approach them and say, by the way, you should study Vedanta. And people say, why? What will Vedanta do to me? I have a happy life. Yes, I have some problems and so on and so forth. There is nothing else that I need to do. So then, you can you approach this kind of a person and say, please, by the way, you should look into Vedanta. And the person says, no, I don't need it, and there's no reason for me to really study it. So you say, okay, fine, good luck. You come back. Then comes a time in your life, sometimes, not always, but most of the time, when things are not going very well. And you are very upset with the world. So in the first case, you are pleased with the world. You think you can handle everything very well. You have gotten friendly with the world. Things are going okay. There comes a point where the bad side of Dvandva appears, and there you have lots of problems. The most important problem you have is physical problems. You have problems with the body, you have problems with emotional problems, all kinds of things, and you are upset. Now if you approach the same person and say, by the way, you should study Vedanta, do you think he would study Vedanta? No. Because he's too busy getting his knee replaced, too busy getting trying to avoid a divorce, too busy trying to get his children to support emotionally, and so on. It just does not happen. So, in all cases, you are aware of the Anatma as a Dvandva, as the good and bad side of life. You're very busy with it. Either you are attracted to it or you are repulsed by it. It is really a marvel that we can even take our eyes off of the Anatma. And so the original thing what I said was that the consciousness is there, but it doesn't really have, there's no reason to inquire into it. There's no reason to inquire into it. There is a reason to inquire into it. And the reason to inquire into it is that the Dvandva, the Anatma, the good and bad, are transitory. Both good and bad, both of them are the stuff of mithya. And by the way, it's interesting, the word mithya I think probably the best translation for the word mithya is myth. This is how it probably came about also. It is a myth. Myth in the sense that it has certain presence, but it is just it has no truth to it, as we will see more clearly today in the explanation of it. Anyway, so to start this, which says, there is a constant, unchanging, reliable sphuranam, sadatmakam sphuranam, the one who is sphuranam is sadatmakam alone. So the word eva, yasya sphuranam sadatmakam eva, which indeed, so this is the primary message of this verse, that this unchanging sphuranam indeed is behind the changing sphuranam. So this is the meaning of the first line. Yasya eva sphuranam sadatmakam asatkalparthakam bhasate. It in fact alone appears as asatkalpakam. There is no other source for asatkalpakam. It is not true Dvaitam. So Atma and Anatma are not on the same level of reality. If they were on the same level of reality, then there will be Dvaitam. There are two people. But as we see, I think the central thing I want to really take up as an example today is a person standing in front of the mirror, looking at his or her reflection. So the person standing and the reflection in the mirror are not two people. Why are they not two people? Because the reflection is not at the same level of reality. It's when you talk about mithya, really I think the way to look at mithya is a lower level of reality. Just like a reflection is a lower level of reality. So with that example, now you can revise and revisit the first line. See, now you can revise it. How? So let's read the first line again. Yasya eva sphuranam sadatmakam asatkalparthakam bhasate. Meaning that a real person alone appears as an apparent person. Yasya sphuranam sadatmakam. So this is a relative thing here just for the example. So let's say that you are stably placed in front of the mirror. You're not moving. You're stable. So this is kind of sadatmakam. And your presence and your light through your eyes, your personality, your entire personality, which is real, you're a living person, alone appears as an almost living person. So you can say, it's interesting, So one would be sadatmakam, means that it is consisting of a real presence, and it is spuranatmakam. It has a real life. It appears as asatkalparthagam and jadatmakam. It is jada. Your reflection in the mirror, your own reflection in the mirror looks like you. So this is the meaning of asat kalparthakam. So it's not absent. It's not as though you can look at the wall and there will be an absence of your reflection, but in the mirror you have a reflection that looks almost like you. And we can say almost because of several reasons. One of the reasons is that it has no life of its own. The life is in the sadatmakam, not asatkalparthakam. Another one is that you are spuranatmakam. You are alive. But your reflection looks alive, but it is jadatmakam. It is inert. So these are all qualities of mithya. Another one is that your reflection depends on you, but you don't depend on the reflection. You are independent, but your reflection is not independent. If you move away, the reflection also moves away. You cannot just stay there. If you move your arms in one direction, then the reflection also moves in the same direction. You cannot do anything else. And another thing is, you are not affected by any changes. Like suppose the mirror is moving, it is shaking. The reflection can be shaking and moving, but you are not moving. This is what it is pointing out. See now, this is the first line. This should grasp it very clearly. Yasya eva sphuranam sadatmakam. And so here, this is the drishtanta, this is the example. But look at the dashtantika, which is the reality. So the reflection in the mirror is just an example. But see that in your own life, that you are real as an unchanging consciousness, awareness, unchanging awareness. And unchanging means one which is sadatmakam, which is the reality. What are the symptoms of reality? It is independent. Consciousness is independent. It does not depend on anyone. So, our reality as a human being, our form as a human being, in terms of its body and thoughts and so on, is also a reflection of consciousness. So it's just like when you're dreaming, you, the dreamer, is also part of the dream. And what you are dreaming about is also part of the dream. So similarly, you and I as a body-mind phenomena is also a reflection. It is kind of like, it may not be an exact example, but if you are sort of looking around And in one eye, you look at yourself in the reflection. Your reflection is also looking around. And so the reflection as a looker is false, and what the reflection is looking at is also equally false. So similarly, myself as a human being with a body-mind complex is also a reflection, and the world that I'm looking at is also a reflection. Whereas the consciousness is not like that. It is not a reflection, it is the reality. And that is the reality of Ishvara. That is my reality, and which is Ishvara's reality, which is Shiva's reality, which is Dakshinamurti's reality. So now we can see the sense of this verse. Yasya means whose. So it's not as though you can pretend as though it is yours, and it will not be wrong to say that, because but the only problem is when you say my reality, you are still couching yourself with the body-mind complex. So it's just like saying room space. And in the examples, it is called ghatakasha. So ghatakasha means the pot space. So the pot space has some peculiarities. A pot space has some interesting peculiarities. Pot space is the only one which is capable of holding water, because it has the upadhi of the ghata. So this is called ghatakasha, akasha, which is surrounded by ghata. And then you have mahakasha, which is the total space. So similarly, we give the example of room space and total space. So even though, to my point, let me finish that, even though it is Ishvara's reality, and it is your reality, but when we say it is Ishvara's reality, that makes it slightly better, because otherwise you always visualize yourself as a human being, which is really the reflection, not the reality. Anyway, I'm making it a little complex because I'm trying to put a lot of things into it, but let me simplify it again. So the first line which says, and so the reason I introduced Ishvara, Shiva, is because Shiva and Ishvara, so this is addressing the total space. It is, and another way really to look at it, I think we should do some meditation on this. This is a very useful way to look at it. You should look upon yourself, the example of a wave in the ocean. You know, that famous example that we have seen and so on. In your meditation, you should not just say, I am the water. I am not a wave. You should say, I am the ocean. An infinite ocean. Imagine an infinite ocean. Here we have Pacific Ocean that has some boundaries. Indian Ocean has some boundaries. But if you extend that to say this is infinite ocean of water, suppose, the consciousness should be seen as an ocean of consciousness. And an ocean of consciousness which is unchanging, which is always there. Always there when there is Dvaitam, and always there when there is no Dvaitam, Whenever there are waves, it is always there. When there are no waves, it is always there. It is there by nature. This is the meaning of sadatmakam. So doing meditation, I find, where I visualize, and this is the reality, by the way. This is not a make-believe meditation. This is the real meditation. But the only thing is that instead of focusing on the dvandvas meanings this is our life. Just see this very clearly. Our life is that we are an ocean of consciousness, but we are hung up by the trivialities of the shape of my own body, the shape of the other people's body. Like I am hung up on my waviness, other people's waviness, my limitations as a wave, other people's limitation, my relationship with the waves, other people's relationship, my start and finish dates, all those kinds of things. I am completely hung up on it. And I cannot even put my attention that I am the ocean of consciousness. I am not just, I am the entire ocean, unchanging. So going back to this, yasya eva sphuranam sadatmakam. And the same reality, going back to the reflection example in the mirror, really everything in the reflection depends on you. It is not independent of you. And then this is the reason, this is the idea. And this is pointed out directly through the words of Shastra, Veda. And it is communicated directly to people who are capable of understanding and who are listening with their minds. So this is what is said, Sakshat Tattvamasiti Veda Vachasa Yaha Bodhayati Ashritan. And so here we saw last week, and we'll spend some more time today also, he says this fact is communicated directly to people who have resolved themselves to listening to this truth. And it is communicated in the following way. It is communicated by saying Tattvamasi. Means that what you think you are as a room space is really the total space. Tat here means the totality of the space or totality of anything. And Tvam is your particular nature that you take yourself to be. Those two are one and the same. They are already one and the same. It's not as though you will become. This is an important point. So, bhavambo nidhau, we saw that in the 2 classes ago, we talked about this. So, bhavandha means, bhava ambha nidhi means an ocean of samsara. An ocean of samsara means if you are a wave in the ocean, your ability to overcome your problems is not possible. It's like being thrown into the ocean with a leaky boat and you're trying to cross it. Swami Dhananji was very fond of saying this, that the body is like a leaky boat. You fix one part of it and the other part goes bad. And you fix that part and the first part goes bad. In the meantime, you're taking water in and you're struggling. And then you find the other interesting thing really is you look around and everybody is in the same leaky boat. Everyone has a leaky boat and they're all struggling. Everyone is struggling. So you get a little bit of solace because of that. Little bit of solace. I remember Swami Dayanand used to say that he gave us some advice. He said, when somebody has had a bereavement in their family, do not philosophize at that time. I find these pundits, they immediately start doing the second chapter of the Gita, Vasamsi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya, etc., etc. And we observed Swamiji. And then we talked about it. And his advice was, what you should do is to do the following. You see, now the person who is passed away is not something you can address. He's gone. He's not listening to you. So the only people that are listening are their spouses or children or someone like that. And they are crying. They are in deep sorrow. So they are the only ones that are going to listen to you. So the way to teach them is to say, I know it is hard for you. And we have had also similar things happen to us. It will be okay. Your life, because the thing is, really speaking, when people are bereaving, they are not really bereaving for the person who is dead. There is some bereavement for that, because a person who suddenly dies, especially at a young age, it's very hard to figure out, how can that person go? Where did he go? He was healthy, talking, so on and so forth, and all of a sudden he's gone, not moving. So there is some wonder and some puzzlement. Really, most of the bereavement is about yourself, what is going to happen to me. How am I going, especially if your spouse has died, then you have to figure out what's going to happen to who's going to support me, and will I have enough money, will my children take care of me, and so on. And you are bereaving. And Swami Maheshanji was so funny. He said, why the people are fundamentally so independent and we are fundamentally happy people that we are alive and so on. He says that I've had so many people who have come to me and he says, Swamiji, my wife has died and she left me, and my life, I feel like committing suicide. I don't want to live anymore. Swamiji says, no, it'll be okay, don't worry about this, that or the other. He says, 4 months later, I was passing by in the car and this guy is having golgappas and enjoying himself and so on and so forth. And I said, Ishvara, you are so great. In 15th chapter he says, Apohanancha. Ishvara has given you a lack of memory, which is wonderful. How long are you going to cry for your wife? Maybe a couple of days, maybe 12 days, 13 days. After that, then you'll say, my life has to go on. Anyway, going back to the advice that Swami Dayanandji gave, he said the best thing to do is to say, I know you're grieving. It has happened to many of us. You will be okay. You'll be taken care. That's all. Don't say about Vasansi Jirnani Yatha Vihaya, this second chapter and this, that or the other. I cannot tell you how many times I have been invited. I know one of Zarina's friend had passed away at the age of 55, and how many other places that I've been invited to give some kind of a talk. They think that I'm a very spiritual person, so I should be, so they call me up and so on. Now here is my issue, and I'm now very familiar with this. So I'm the main guy. So they all say, Vijayji, what is the program? You tell me what, so on and so forth. So I visualize. There is a Panditji. And this Panditji has his own ideas. He doesn't know, even if he knows me, he says, forget about this guy, I'm the main guy. Because he knows how to chant, but I don't know all these specialty chants and so on and so forth. So he knows how to chant and so on. He takes over. And one of my friends, this happened, so one of my friends, Paul Gupta, passed away. That I think I talked about many of you. And so, I knew him fairly well, but he was not as one of my closest friends. So one day, his son called me and said, Vijay uncle, my father gave me instructions that if he should pass away, I want you to conduct the ceremony. And this has happened about 4 or 5 times, where I'll have to give up my life. For now, I have to arrange for funerals. I have to, talk to them about this. Anyway, so this happened. So I talked to, his son's name is Rajiv. So I said, Rajiv, here's the issue. Who is the Pandit? Who is the Pandit? So he says, no, he said, why? I said, listen, you think that you and I are going to determine all of this? No. He's got his own ideas and so on and so forth. And you better ask him how long is he going to take. And they won't tell you the truth. They'll say, 10 minutes. They love to pontificate. They've got all these people, and they just start with chapter 2, then they go to some mantras, then you do this, then you so on and so forth. I don't even know where I was. I've gotten into so much into this. But this is what happens. Swamiji said, do not pontificate. Just tell them, some solace. And then if they are interested, because they are also going to forget after about 2 or 3 days. They are going to start eating chaat and chole bhature and so on and so forth. So there's nothing, it's not going to last. And this is what Swami Maheshananji also said. He says, my actual experience is that the human being is very independent. This is just a small problem in their lives, and they are able to overcome it. Because the soul is an independent, happy soul. We can really just be on our own. So anyway, going back to this, the example of, so Sakshat Tattvamasi means that the same person who appears to be limited. Oh, I know, there was a link that I had. Now I was trying to forget it. So the wave of the ocean is very concerned about other waves of the ocean because you do not see the water. See, what is visible to our mind is something that has a form. Form meaning it has some ideas, some bodies, some relationships, some accomplishments, failures. This is what our mind is grasping at. But the fact that there is an unchanging conscious principle which was never born and consequently cannot die is just far out. I can't visualize that. All I can visualize is, it is exactly like a child who can play marbles and dolls and balloons. But you start telling him about, if you go to high school and then you can do to Harvard and so on and so forth. He said, what are you talking about? Well, just give me some balloons. This is what happens. And so really, if the Ishvara through the teaching is able to show me that the Ishvara says, you don't understand. You don't need to do it. Don't look at other waves. Don't look at your own body. Look at your own reality, your own consciousness. And our mind says, but I don't see it. I know you don't see it right now. But don't you see this is what it is? This is what is called Sakshat Karanam. And that is the meaning of Tattvamasi. So there, just to link to what we talked extensively in the last class, so the Tattvamasi is not that you and Ishvara are one and the same. It is true. But what it means is that you as a limited person is the same as the unlimited person. Because I can't, this equation I cannot make happen. How can a limited person be equal to unlimited person? This is the Vedantic trick. And so we will visit that in a bit more detail later on. But let's finish this. So, and so therefore, if the wave of the limited wave, who is totally preoccupied by comparisons and feeling sorry for himself, as I'm going to die pretty soon, what's going to happen to me, and so on. If that person is shown, my goodness, you are not a leaky boat, you are the very holder of the leaky boat. The leaky boat is in you, the ocean of consciousness. Don't you see that? Then I can, once I see that very clearly, then I can never make the mistake that I am the very wave, I am the very boat that is traveling on the ocean. So that's the meaning of Yat Sakshat Karanat Bhavet Na Punaravritti. That never goes back. And we also touched on this word Bhava Ambha Nidhi. And so this is exactly what it is. Bhava means, Bhavati means one which is, I look upon myself as not happy now, but if I do the following things, then I will be happy. I'm very preoccupied by that. And so, if a guru wave comes in and says, first of all, your assumption that you are not happy now is flawed. It's just like if you are dreaming that I am in bad shape, the mother can wake you up and say, you are not in bad shape, you are just dreaming. The reality of you are not in bad shape, you are in exceedingly good shape. But I'm not listening. I'm not listening. I am still in a kind of a dreamy space. No, save me, save me. So there's no need to save you. You are already free. But that message doesn't come through. And suddenly when your mind starts to look at this, what did you say? Then once that message goes through, then you wake up and the whole ocean dries up. For example, in I think it's Kalidasa's Bhavasagar Sab Sukh Gaya Hai, means the entire ocean has as though dried up. That was an ocean of samsara. And so, to that person, so it is really Dakshinamurti, Shiva is the Dakshinamurti, whose Puranam is Sadatmakam, which is lighting me up as a reflection. You see, this is the meaning of the verse. Yasya eva sphuranam sadatmakam, and yaha sakshat veda vachasa bodhayati, to me as an ashritan, and by doing which now I can see the reality of myself. My namaskara to you. How did you do this to me? How can you, I didn't have to wait for another life. I didn't have to take any heaven or anything like this. I'm right free right now. This is the meaning of the verse. So, with that, I wanted to go to a few other points, especially the first line, Yasya eva spuranam sadatmakam, to underscore the clarity of that. So, just very quickly. I think I pretty much hit most of them. In the second verse of the Manasa Ullasa, I'm just now going through the Manasa Ullasa. I gave you a kind of an overall sense of it and covered many of the Manasa Ullasa concepts as that of that. Nevertheless, and you have the sheet that shows you what the Manasa Ullasa is trying to show. So, for example, if you look at your sheet, and so the Manasa Ullasa number 2, which comprises of the Ullasa verses 2, 3, and 4. And it says, Satta Spuranayoho Atma Ashrayata. We've already covered that pretty much. And so what it means is that the so-called reality of the things that I see are my reality. Atma Ashrayata. Just like the satta and spuranam of the reflection is my spuranam and satta. So the Atma's satta and spuranam, sat and chit, is responsible for what you see in the whole world. You are the one who is supplying the reality. And later on, if, for example, in the Manasa Ullasa number 5 and 6, so you look at the definition of that, drishye adhyaste sattaspuranatte. Adhyastam. Adhyastam means it is superimposed. It is their reality, their form is superimposed on you. So superimposed means it's kind of like, if there is another good example which Vedanta uses is that of fire. In a red hot fire in which a round cold ball of iron is put down. You leave You take some tongs and you put a cold black iron ball in a red hot fire and leave it there for a few minutes. What will happen is that the ball will become hot, and also the color of the fire, so much so that it can even emanate a little bit of light, and certainly the heat. So there you can say that the fire, the ball, but interestingly enough, it makes the fire round, because otherwise the fire has no shape, it's just some flames. But if you put an iron ball into the fire, it becomes like a round fire, glowing fire. So similarly, what happens is that when I see things in my mind, and I see things, I just see things, not in the mind, just I see things, the image of the people borrow my qualities but become shapeful in my presence. How? So the iron ball borrows the quality of the fire. It cannot shine by itself, but it borrows the fire and makes it look like a round fire. It can even brag to the fire, listen, I am something that you are not. You're not a round, you're not as clean looking as I am. See how nice and round I am. Then the fire says, you borrowed it all from me. So similarly, people have their own presence. They can talk separately to me. They can walk away from me, all those kinds of things. But while they are in front of me, they are borrowing my presence. It looks like it is an independent presence. Just like an iron ball also makes it independent fire. But really speaking, it is the adhyastha. They are adhyastha to me. In fact, the fact of the matter is, my entire experience of life, the entire experience, no matter where you are, is your own reflection. It does not have any independent presence. So we can always go back to the reflection example. And so this is the very definition of mithya. Mithya means that it does not have its own reality. And a very good example of the dream. So the dream also, and so later on in the Manasa Ullasa, that in fact I think in one of the, let's see, where is it? Yeah, in Manasa Ullasa number 8. So the question is, if the people that you say that the whole world is my reflection, then how come I don't feel that? How come I don't see it? What's the problem? Why do I see them separately? And the answer to that is given in in number 8 and 9, and even otherwise, the key thing is the ignorance in the form of moha. So moha means something is covering my eyes, something is covering me for the time being, but it will go. So we've talked about this more in the Mandukya Upanishad class, that what makes you cover is sleep in the Swapnavastha. In the Swapnavastha, something strange happens. It gives you an alternate reality. You know, in the last several weeks when I've been teaching Mandukya, every time I am suddenly awake from a dream, I am struck by how real it was. Before that, I never really put much attention to it. But since I'm talking about it and teaching it and learning it and so on and so forth, I'm aware of the fact. This is what Mandukya is saying. That when you say that the dream is just gone and so on, not at the time of the dream. It's an alternate reality that hits you, that creates possibly some problems for you. Funny kind of situations. And that funny kind of situations is brought about by a very powerful covering called sleep. So the sleep is not just the absence of Jagrata. And the Jagrata Avastha, what causes this moha is Maya Shakti. The Maya Shakti frightens me, creates all kind of alternate reality for me. Alternate reality means everybody looks very independent. You look like you're all different waves. I don't see that my water is really powering you as well. But it is. And the more you think about it, the more reality it becomes. And your mind starts to smile and laugh a lot. At first it's very serious. No. First of all, first thing is I don't get it. Are you sure? What authority? This is the thing. When I say something something like, the whole world is nothing but your reflection. So your first reaction is, what is he smoking? What is he talking about? Then he says, then some people might say, well, he's been steadily saying it, and he's been reading the right kind of books, not some funny books that have their own theories and so on and so forth. Maybe there is some truth to it, but I don't get it. For sure I don't get it. Are you sure? These are the steps that we have to go through. But then, as we improve our mind, slowly the message sinks in. And then it becomes more and more obvious. And then, I think the main thing that happens is that you see results in your life. It is not just listening to some talk and so on and so forth. If you see that for yourself, what you will see is that your dependence on other things will diminish. You will see yourself as the very source of peace and quiet and happiness. It's a slow transfer, but a very definite transfer. And just the very trend is very reassuring that I am on the right path. And so this is, once you see that it is really my own makeup where I am upset by things that I don't need to be upset about. And that means that I see the value of myself as as a person, as a consciousness which is unchanging. And so it is just a matter, this is the whole process of waking up. It's slower than the quick wake up from a dream. Because one thing it has is that it has simulations, even though it's a Jagrat, even though the Jagrat Avastha is a dream Avastha, but it doesn't look like it. But if I persist, then the mithyatvam becomes more and more obvious. So this is the process that you go through. Anyway, so that's all determined in these Manasa Ullasa verses. Let's see if I can. Yeah, mohaha, that's what I was wanting to say, verse number 8. Then in the ninth verse, one interesting thing, it talks about the Ghatakasha and Mahakasha, which we already touched upon, the part space and the total space is based off Deha Upadhi. Just like the room space is done by the Upadhi of the walls, and so my sense of limitation is done by the Deha Upadhi. Deha Upadhi, all three of them. So three of them is the Sthula Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira and Karana Sharira. Those are the ones that seemingly enclose me. So here, Swami Maheswaranji has said something very interesting, very beautiful. And Swami Dayananji also talked about it. This goes to the very etymology of the Sanskrit language. So, Swami Dayananji used to say that. He says, you have two words to describe your body. So one of them is called Sharira. I think we can still get this out. I think we can do that. That might be good to do. A couple of more minutes. This is the last topic. Okay, so Panchadashi Mandukya, where were we? Panchadashi, I think it's this one. Yeah. So, oh sorry, I have not connected it yet.
It may have powered down.
Oh really? You think so? It might have powered down? Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Ah, it's coming up. Good. What happened? I could see it. Let me try it one more time. Sorry about that, it's wasting time.
There you go.
All right, good. So, the word body. So here, obviously it has three aspects to it. One, but here let's talk about the physical body for a minute. So So in physical body, you have a choice of two Sanskrit words to describe the body. Okay? One is called Sharira. As we use, remember Sukshma Sharira, Sthula Sharira, Karana Sharira. And the etymology of Sharira means Shiryamanatvat. Shiryamanatvat Sharira means that because it decays. It decays. It is the nature of the body is that it decays. Just like anything that decays. It's a very sophisticated set of combination of different things, but sooner or later as you grow old it is meant to decay. It's nothing, there's no problem. This is the way it should be. Anyway, this is one thing. The second choice, Dayanand used to say, okay, which one do you want to get? You want Sharira or you want the second one, which is called Deha? And the etymology of Deha means that burns. That burns. So here, Swami Maheshananji in the commentary of this has taken this one. He says what happens is that, let's take this one as the, so dih, dah, it's from the dhatu dah, means burning. And really, in cremation, the body is burning. It's not made out of iron or anything like that, that doesn't burn. Supposing our bodies are made out of iron, you cremate it, it's still there as a cold body. No. Ashes. So it burns. So Swami Maheshananji points out, this is the thing, very interesting thing to say. He says, because you take on the upadhi of deha. So this is given actually this is given in the, Swami Maheshananji is simply explaining it, but is given in the Manasa Ullasa itself, that the upadhi is deha, but what Swami Maheshananji points it out is, when you take the upadhi, you burn yourself in three ways. You create the same problem as a burning body. You don't need to, but you do. You take on the qualities of the body to yourself. You say, I have a headache today. Atma cannot have a headache, but the body can have a headache. So you superimpose the headache to yourself. Worse still, you burn through the Sukshma Sharira. I am very upset at things. When is this president going to go? What is he doing to this country? This is not like saying make this country great, it is make this country white. Just from the very agenda from the very beginning. So all the non-whites are very worried. And also we are also, we don't have that long to live, but our children, they're all non-whites, what is going to happen to them? So this is called mental worries. This is called Sukshma Sharira Deha. And so Himesha points out, Maheshanji points out, that Mrityu, death, takes care of Sthula Sharira. Then Pralaya, when you have a complete cessation of all issues, takes care of the Sukshma Sharira. But the Karana Sharira is still there. Karana Sharira means one which is the very cause of your taking to be limited. It is unexpressed, but it is there. Even Pralaya will not take care of it, because you will be gone from one kalpa to the next kalpa, and you'll be starting again, just like you go from one night to another day. That can be taken care of by Tattvamasi iti Veda Vachasa Yat Sakshat Karanat. Then Nivritti is total. So that is a commentary on the word Deha, Sukshma Sharira, etc. And so that we have a little bit of more to discuss on the third, but I think we have pretty much gotten the sense of the third verse. We will go into hopefully just one other class, maybe a bit more. I'll have to review any other important points. But there is a lot of explanation of the process of the Mahavakya Tattvamasi. So we will discuss that a little bit, because this is where it comes up. Because Dakshinamurti is a very complete text. It looks at all aspects of it, even though it's a very dense text of only 10 verses, but in there is a lot of different aspects of Vedanta. So the Tattvamasi is discussed here, and this is sketched out in some more detail in the Manasa Ullasa, verses number 10 through 19. But we won't go through every one of them. I'll give you a sense of what the Tattvamasi. I've already talked about Tattvamasi, so I think it'll be fast, and maybe a couple of other things, and then we are done with the third verse. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay. So, do you have any time for questions? Yeah. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to. Yeah.
The word upadhi, can you explain more about?
So upadhi means something that has the ability to change the look of something else. By its very presence, it creates a different set of look for something else. So the wall is an upadhi. So the wall has the ability to make space look like room space.
So it is not illusion, it is present really, but still it is not real.
So the upadhi is also in different senses of reality. So you can say that the wall and the space are in the same level of reality. Right? Same level of reality. So, but it creates a non-real understanding of space. Then another one is an ornament in gold is an upadhi. So an ornament is a lower level of reality than the gold. unlike a wall and the space that have the same level of reality. So the upadhis are also different kinds. But in the case of some shape of the gold, which you can call it as an upadhi, it makes the gold take a name and a form and utility. So that is also, and it's a different level of reality, because you cannot say that in the case of at least the wall and the space, they are coexisting. In the case of gold and ornament, they are not coexisting as separate things. One is completely dependent on the other. In reality, even the wall is made out of dense space. That comes much later. So I also didn't realize it for a long time. But the space is made up of ingredients. When they are making into denser and denser, it becomes solid. So really speaking, even the wall is nothing but space alone, but in a transformed way. And so similarly, it makes the space appear as though it is. And a good example of that, I think we might study it even next week, is the cloud is born out of the sun, and it covers the sun. It is dependent on the sun, and the sun actually wants it that way. So the creation of the sun is such that it creates a cover for itself for some good reasons. And of course it creates a cover at night time. So the rays cannot penetrate the earth. And so there is an apparent absence of sun when there is no real absence of the sun. So those are different kinds of upadhis, you can say. You can say that in that example, the cloud is an upadhi that makes the sun not be there, when in fact it is there. Another different examples you can take. So, for example, the air particles that are present in the stratosphere are responsible for sunlight. Why? Because the sunlight gets reflected by the particles of the air. If you go above, I forget what it is, 200 miles or something like this, there's no air particles. And so the sun is there, but you don't see it. There's complete darkness. So in that sense, the air particles are also an upadhi that makes the sun look like something. Yeah. So those are different examples of the upadhi.
So would
There is a
moonlight be also a upadhi?
I'm sorry?
The light coming out of moon, that is actually sun's light.
Yeah, you could say it that way, yes. That example is usually not taken in that way. But in the complete understanding, anything that makes something look different than what it is. In that particular example, just to be a purist, you never mistake a moon to be a sun. So it doesn't make the sun look differently. You know very well it's a reflection in that sense. Yeah. So I think that the air particles are slightly different because when you see the light of the sun, what you see is the diffused light through the air particles. This is what you see. So there is a sort of like a misrepresentation of the sun. But in the case of the moon, there is no mistake as such, because it is definitely a cooling, nice looking, you can look at it directly, whereas you cannot look at the sun. Yeah. But yeah, one can take those examples as well. Any other? All right, very good. So we'll see you next week.